Guy van den Ede is already since more than 30 years in this field. And of course, he started with the GMO and the Joint Research Center for the European Commission in 1990. And then he was already one of the initiators of the European Union Reference Laboratory for GMOs and the European Network of GMO Laboratories. In 2016, he was appointed Unit Head Knowledge for Health and Consumer Safety. And today, his particular focus is on new plant breeding techniques and the impacts of genomics on healthcare. Since November 2019, he is acting director for health and consumers and reference materials. And so with this, I think we have a good representative for the whole setup from GMOs to new genomic techniques. And he will give the opening presentation, and a warm welcome for you, Guy van den Ede.
Thank you very much, Ralph. Distinguished colleagues, dear friends, Herman, especially thanks to you. It is extremely exciting, and I feel it as an enormous privilege to be here about 15 years after the first global conference on GMO analysis that we organized at the Lake of Como in Italy. What I would like to do here today is to give you some take-home messages from more than 35 years of GMO testing and international collaboration, and I will jump a little bit left and right and select a few items that I believe are worth to share with you. And hello, Lutz, I see you in the back there as well. Good to see you. First of all, a few words about my organization, the Joint Research Center, part of the Commission. Ursula von der Leyen is the president, and we serve mostly Commissioner Gabriel, who is responsible for innovation, research, culture, education, and youth. So she has EAC, as we call it, under her portfolio, but also DG Research and Innovation and DG GRC. As concerns foresight, we report to Commissioner Šefčovič. My Director General is Stephen Quest, and you just saw on the screen my Deputy Director General Salla Sastamoinen. We also have Bernard Magenhan, and then I am currently the Director for Health and Food, and Emilio, who is here with us, is representing the Directorate D for sustainable resources. So that's a bit the umbrella under which we are performing today. Now, the purpose, the overall purpose, to say it simple, of the GRC is to provide knowledge, evidence for policy making. And if we go back to the years 90, and we ask ourselves there in the field that we are going to talk about today, what was the evidence to implement the legislation which was already existing on GMOs and which was under the Environmental Directive? Well, at that time, we had about 18 GMOs that have been approved. There was a requirement for labeling, but there were no validated detection methods. There were no reference materials, so there was absolutely no analytical way to implement the requirements of that directive. And so we started thinking slowly but steadily on how to do that. But of course, first of all, you need to have the material available. And to my knowledge, it was in '95 that Rolf Meyer published the first paper on a method for GMO detection. So this was just the publication of the methodology. And then it was in Germany here where there was the first validated method and together with the first certified reference material. So it took till '97 until we started to have some elementary tools to do the work. Now, a very important date for all of us was in November 11 and 12 of 99, where we called as a GRC experts from the different countries that we knew had expertise or knowledge in GMO testing. And after a substantial amount of grappa, they signed the letter that I'm showing here, which is a demand for setting up the laboratory of a network for the laboratories of the member states' competent authorities. So that was the request from that expert group, because they felt that they had to sit together, exchange information, look at good examples, do capacity building, exchange methodologies, and so on and so forth. And then it took till December 2002, when in the presence of Commissioner Busquin and the late Barry McSweeney, that the agreement of the European Network of GMO Laboratories was signed. That was in Brussels, and the purpose of the Network of GMO Laboratories was basically to provide or to work together with us on validation studies, to work together with us on harmonization of control, exchange information, and also at that moment we said it would be good that we jointly can participate to certain research programs to develop methodologies and to refine the technology. Now, this network has been recognized by the European Commission, and on the basis of that, the European Commission entrusted for the first time to the European Commission the URL, which was in this case the URL for GMO, genetically modified food and feed. Now, this network, and I will come back to that later, was quite quickly increasing. We had new member states joining the European Union and thus joining also the European Commission. It was the previous, I'm going too fast with my slides. How comes? Here. Sorry for that. So here, on the top left, that was an event in Prague where we signed the agreement to join ENGL with the Czech Republic and with others. Then we had another signing with Atanas Atanasov from Bulgaria. On the left below, this has nothing to do with an ENGL as such, but I really wanted to have this picture in here because we see Jaroslav Blume in there, who was our and still is our representative for Ukraine. And I must say that even in these days, I still have contact with him and he's still performing his work of GMO expert analysis in Ukraine. And then also we soon started to work globally, and this is just one picture of the many workshops we had across the globe, and I will also come back to these. So we were setting up the URL for genetically modified food, and this has very specific tasks within the legislation. It serves the GM legislation by coordinating validation studies, coordinating the work of the EU reference laboratories. The obligation is also to provide to the national laboratories control samples. We organize comparative testing. I will come back to that later, to assess the quality of the analytical capacities of the member states' laboratories. And then we provide also ad hoc support, because since the setting up of the network till today, a number of non-authorized or non-approved GMOs appeared on the European market, and we had to do the control there. And then what we also did was a provision of support. So I cannot here, but colleagues will come back to that later, I cannot here list you all the deliverables and the impact that the European Union Reference Laboratory had together with the GMO. Just to give you an example, we have set up molecular databases that help the laboratories. We do have a very broad gamma of CRMs available. We have been working on conversion factors, quite technical as you know, but when you measure with different techniques or different parts of seed, you may need to convert one result into another one. We were working on the best crop reference genes and so on. So in other words, everything that was said way back in '99 that we needed in terms of providing assistance to the laboratories, we have achieved in the meanwhile. Then to come back to the group of the European Network of GMO Laboratories that is working together with the EURL. Its mission is indeed to support the well-functioning of the European Union Reference Laboratory. They work together with us on working procedures. We have working groups. We provide background documents. We provide supportive documents and so on and so forth. And we will hear about some examples later today and in the next days. And so this group consists of the 27 EU member states, plus Norway, Switzerland and Turkey, and we have observers from a number of third countries. And for example, I'm very happy to see Dabing Zhang here from Shanghai, Chris Viljoen from South Africa. All these people have been associated to the work of the ENGL. Now one can ask the question, has this had any impact? Do we do better with an ENGL than before we had an ENGL? And several colleagues of mine, with Wim Broodtaerts as the principal investigator, was looking at the 10 years of proficiency testing that we have been going on and the impact of it, the result of it. And if you look at the right side of the figure, you see that around 2010, we had 10% of unsatisfactory scores, more or less, among the participating laboratories, whereas in 2018, 2019, we brought that down to 2 to 3%. So you see a vast improvement in the efficacy of the work of the control laboratories. So the answer is yes, already there you see a very clear impact on the performance of the participating labs. Now we evolve together with the technology, we evolve together with the particular questions that are being raised, sometimes political questions or societal questions. And for example, we have been working quite a lot now on digital PCR for GMO detection and beyond as one of the, let's say, more recent applications. I'm not going through all the things that I've here on the slides. I also guess, Herman, that the people will receive the slides afterwards for reference. But so this slide I put up to show you that this group of reference laboratories and the ENGL is really going with the speed of technology and with the speed of technological advances and is incorporating these into the daily work, exchanges information with all the participants, looks at the efficacy of the methods, improves the method, and so on and so forth. And so yes, today we are here and we are in the era of new genomic techniques. Well, not actually from today. It is since quite a long while that these techniques have been developed and refined and so on and so forth. And also there, we have, as JRC, provided a state-of-the-art review. I think also Emilio will come back to that on the uptake of these methods. But we also have been looking at what are these methods about, what are the categories of methods that are used, and much more important to bring it back to the discussion of today, to the possibilities to detect it. And we had some first analysis, and I know that this will be challenged over the next few days, and I'm very interested in looking at the result. But we have been looking, and then I'm saying again, together with the European Network of GMO Laboratories, at the different groups of techniques, and we have been asking ourselves the questions, can we detect even the most subtle DNA changes? But that is not sufficient. It is not only sufficient that we detect a change in the DNA, because this will happen in nature as well. So then the second question is, are these differences that we have been detecting, are they due to, let's say, some laboratory intervention, or have they been occurred naturally? And then also, if we are doing this type of work, what is let's say, the standard, and what is the comparator with whom we are going to make the analysis? We believe that only if there is a known DNA alteration, so a demonstrated known DNA alteration that is unique, then we have some chances for detecting. Otherwise, it is like looking for the classical invisible needle in the haystack. But I'm sure we will be coming back to that issue in the next coming days. I just wanted to set the scene here. Let me go back to another element which is very dear to my heart. I was mentioning to you that we had the European Network of GMO Laboratories. It was limited to, first we call it the member states of the European Union, then we had the so-called accession countries. We expanded it, we had more people joining the group. Why? Because GMO testing is a global issue. And not the same GMOs are cultivated everywhere in the world. Some countries do have a vast production of GMOs, and according to the European legislation, we need to be able to do the traceability. So a good collaboration with colleagues worldwide, applying the same techniques, applying the same references, applying the same reference materials, for us is of crucial importance. And so, little by little, and again, I'm happy that some of the members of these networks are here, we have been providing also and interacting with these laboratories to provide them the technical capacity to do the work in exactly the same validated way as we do it in Europe. It is always about standardization, sharing of information, collaboration, capacity building, and so on and so forth. And we have been doing this very, very intensively over quite a number of years, and we have been reaching out to a very vast majority of the globe and of the laboratories that are working there. Now, an interesting feature is also that the laboratories that do this type of GMO testing, they are not only working on GMOs. So we did a survey, and we saw, for example, we asked them what the subjects are that these laboratories are working on. And many of them, most of them, they also combine the work on GMOs with working on food, and we know the examples in the food chain, but also environmental applications, clinical applications, and on animals. So whereas this network was a network on GMO, it basically represents much more knowledge and much more capacity than just on GMOs. And I'm still very much interested in engaging with those laboratories also for early warning systems of non-GMO occurrences. Now I would like to make another jump, a big jump now. And in December of last year, I wrote a blog internally in the organization, and the title of that blog was The Long and Winding Road from GMOs to Omicron. First of all, I wanted to make a tribute to all the people like you that have been working for many years on PCR, optimization of PCR, and so on and so forth. Today, I think 90% of the people at least know the word PCR because of the SARS-CoV-2 testing, which was not the case years ago. And what I wanted to show here with that blog is that what we do today in many different fields is based upon the pioneering work that this group has been doing over 20 years and more. So it is really a gradually basing upon the discussions, the knowledge, and so on of the experts that are here and that have been working on the subject for many years. And if you look at Omicron, and I will stay only there for a second, you see that I think it was in January, February, that we had the first real cases in Europe, but already in the 1st of April 2020, and again I was talking about reference materials before, on the 1st of April 2020 we could release the first reference material that could be used as a calibrant for PCR in COVID testing. And we have been distributing this to more than 1,000 laboratories. So here you see immediately the impact of the work that has been done on GMO in a completely different field. And at the same time, our experts are let's say, the magicians of the primer design, they also have been looking at these tens of thousands and more sequences of SARS-CoV-2 that gradually became available. And on that basis, we were also able to design methods which, for example, are highly specific. And on the left side here, you see a PCR assay that was very specific for Omicron, and that again was designed based upon the same tools as we designed primers and probes for GMOs. And then on the right-hand side, you see another application where we have been looking at the ultra-conserved regions of Omicron, because you know that variants occur systematically and extremely frequently. And there we were able to design primers that are universal and that we believe are able to detect not only the variants that we have seen today, but also the variants that may occur in the future. And so, again, if you see the names of the people, those are the people that have been working together on GMO testing as well. We talk about Corbusier here, Mauro Petrillo, Marchini. I mean, all the guys that you certainly remember from the G work were there as well. Now, to summarize, I can't summarize. I mean, there has happened so much, it is impossible to summarize. It's impossible to summarize the fantastic work that all you have been doing, but it's also impossible to summarize the impact that this work has had. I can just show you a few fields, the technological impact I've been talking about, but also the societal impact. I think that in this particular area we have shown that not only we have a legislation, which I recognize is rather strict in Europe, but we also have the tools to implement it, and we have the ways to work in a constructive manner together with the producers of the developers and the producers of GMOs. So we kind of close the circle, and we provide some also some societal guarantee that this traceability that is requested can also be implemented. Of course, we know all the health applications. I've been talking to you about the global applications, and I know that today we have here over 200 people in the room. We have over 200 people watching us online, and I'm sure that today, tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow, people from across the globe will be listening to you, and they are watching you for the discussions that will be taking place here. I thank you so very much.